everyone. Today I have a layout process video for you using my Counterfeit Kit Challenge kit. And if you haven't seen my kit build, go ahead and follow the link either in the show notes or up in the little doodad. And you can find out more about how I built my kit and what the Counterfeit Kit Challenge is all about. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So today I am scrapbooking my youngest daughter's 13th birthday, and that is why I put this kit together for that teen girl vibe. And here I am sorting through my pattern papers, just trying to figure out which patterns I want to use. And I decide that that piece with all of the smiling faces is perfect because I have a lovely group photo of all of her friends sitting around on the floor watching a movie during her birthday party. So then I decide I want to make a big party banner style piece that's going to be the placeholder for all my photos, and I'm going to cut that into a banner fishtail flag. And I'm looking through to see what else I might want to go with this layout, and I'm having a hard time deciding. I know some of these patterns I have in mind for some other layouts about my daughter here, especially that piece right there that I just set off the screen. So I take a break and I move on to cardstock because I know I'm going to back my whole layout with a cardstock border, and I'm going to use the black cardstock to mat my photos for that little pop. And so my photos are done and matted, and I have these two leftover photos. So here's today's tip. I'm going to make a little pocket to stash those extra photos in. And what I'm going to use, because I am doing a cardstock background for my photo, and here I am trimming down my pattern paper in order to make it the right size for the cardstock mat. And I'm going to save these little strips of paper because those are going to come into play a little bit later. But here we're going to move on to the little pocket that I'm making. So I'm sure not to put adhesive at the top of my layout because that is where my pocket's going to go. And I realize my pocket's going to be covered up mostly by that photo banner. So I am gutting this paper a little bit so I can save some of that paper aside for some other projects. And then I just have this little U-shape piece here, and I'm going to make sure that it's got plenty of adhesive all the way around the edges so that my little pocket doesn't wobble or snag on anything. And I just carefully put my page back down, and as you can see, here's my banner that is going to be the top cover of my pocket, and my photos are going to tuck right in there. So this little strip is just the branding strip off of the piece of paper. And I am going to just use the kind of ugly part of the branding strip, and I'm going to stack up a few pieces and glue them together. And that's going to make a little stopper so that my photos won't fall down inside of the page. They'll just hit that little stopper and come to a rest in there. And then when I put my little banner piece over the top and seal it all down, now I have got that pocket. And with these photos, I matted them with an extra large piece of black matte paper, and I'm going to use a little hole punch to create a little handle so that you can pull these out of the pocket. And I'm going to use the branding strip here again to make a little handle there. Now you can cut these branding strips and just fold them into ribbons, but I don't like to do that because you see the ugly side of the branding strip. So what I like to do with my branding strips is fold them in half and glue them together, and basically making paper ribbons. Now I did show this in my last video, and I'm a little obsessed with this technique right now, so you get to see it again. But when you squish it all together and fold it down nicely, then you get this pretty double-sided little paper ribbon, and that will make a great handle. I staple it in place for extra strength, and that will make a great handle for these little photos for pulling in and out of that little pocket. So if you have too many photos for your layout, go ahead and give this technique a try because it's easy to tuck them in behind layers of paper, and they'll be easily accessible from the top of your sheet protector. So it's a great way to store extra photos on there. And now I'm moving on to the rest of my layout. So I'm going to work on the title first, and I often do this trick where I create a landing zone for my title, and this pattern paper strip and these washi tapes help link the main body of my layout to the extra elements of the layout that will get added, like the title and the embellishments. So I like to make sure things are touching each other so that it reads as one group. Now here is my title, and it was too long to be all one word, so I tried to think of if I just wanted to say 13 or if I wanted to add this dash. But that dash was going right over that girl's face, so it was bugging me. I decide it needs the dash in order to read as one word instead of two words. So I'm going to cover up her face, but then I'm going to kind of resolve that. It's kind of an uncomfortable feeling when you see somebody's partial face, and that's just kind of human psychology. So I'm going to resolve that a little bit by adding some embellishment around it to make it no longer read as a face anymore. And we'll get to that. So I have got this title part done, and so I grab all of my embellishment bits and I get to work with embellishing, and I decide I'm going to make just a typical visual triangle of embellishments here, and I'm trying to decide what colors I want to use. I like the yellow contrast a lot better, so I go ahead and go with that. And then in each of my clusters, I'm going to be sure to kind of repeat some elements, and I'm deciding where I want that third one to go, and I decide that little awkward space in the middle between the photos is kind of the best use of that space. So when I'm creating these clusters, I try to make sure that I repeat elements. So I've got a word element on each cluster. I have some washi tape on each cluster. And then that cluster, my word element was a little too big, so I had to just punch a few more circles to make it big enough. And you can see that kind of takes away your focus from the partial face, so that solves both problems. Now each cluster gets a little bit of some hearts, and then I'm going to add some gems to each cluster, and I will add some enamel dots from this sheet to each cluster. And those are my clusters. Now I did decide to add that word fab down at the bottom because normally my third cluster would be down there, but because I had that little bit of awkward space left over from between the photos, I decided to put my third cluster there and just fill in that little spot down below with the word fab. And as you can see, while I was blabbing about all that, I took out my sequin bag and I just sprinkled a diagonal line of sequins across the page. And I like to add a diagonal flow to my projects often, and by sprinkling the sequins on, that gives me a much more natural random feel to them. And I will flip them right side up and make sure that if there's, too big of a clump or something, I will spread them out a little bit. But I like the randomness that actually sprinkling them on gives me. And then my layout is done after all of that gluing. And don't forget, I have that little pocket there with those extra photos. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. I really appreciate you watching. If you got something helpful out of this video, please do give it a like. That helps my channel. And if you want to catch my future videos, please subscribe.